The 1.6 ohm coil destroyed my MEG experiment. Stage 2. Today, I finally powered up the coil for the MEG system we've all been waiting for. The magnet wasn't installed yet, but I still expected to see stable behavior from the circuit. Instead, something went seriously wrong. The system was pulling nearly 67 watts. The output became unstable, and the protection components around the MOSFET started overheating fast. At first, none of it made sense. But after carefully analyzing the measurements, I discovered the real cause. And it completely changed the way I look at this MEG experiment. In this video, I'll show you what happened, what I found, and how a tiny 1.6 ohm mistake inside the coil nearly destroyed the entire experiment.
In the previous video, I showed the full schematic for this MEG driver. Today, I'm wiring the coils exactly according to that diagram and adding the back EMF diodes in the same positions shown there. This step is simply taking the schematic from last time and turning it into real hardware. Now I'm connecting the coils using thick enamel wire. I decided to use the raw copper wire directly without any additional insulation because it gives me the lowest possible resistance and the cleanest current path. Two control coils are wound in different directions, and I'm carefully matching the start and end points so the magnetic flux flows exactly the way I want inside the core. This part looks simple, but it's actually critical. If the wiring direction is wrong, or if the connections aren't solid, the entire MEG behavior changes, especially when the core starts approaching saturation. So I'm taking my time here, scraping the enamel coating, tinning the copper, and making sure every joint is mechanically strong before soldering it down. Once 4 coils are connected, the next is to connect 2 back EMF diodes. Now I'm installing the back EMF diodes across each coil. These diodes are critical because the coils generate strong back EMF spikes every time the MOSFETs switch off. Without these diodes, those voltage spikes would hit the MOSFETs directly and cause unstable operation or even destroy the device. Now I'm connecting the output coil to the rectifier. This is where the AC coming from the MEG coil gets converted into DC for the next stage of the experiment. The coils and the back EMF diodes are now fully wired and the main structure of the system is in place. This isn't the final assembly yet. The large 30,000 microfarad capacitor will be added later. But the core wiring for today's test is complete. I added this X2 film capacitor directly across the output coil. Its job is to smooth the high-frequency noise coming from the coil and stabilize the AC waveform before it goes into the rectifier. This doesn't change the main behavior of the MEG, but it helps reduce spikes and makes the rectifier operate more cleanly during the test. The large 30,000 microfarad capacitor is now mounted on the system, but I'm not using it yet. This capacitor will only be connected when the output becomes stable and I'm ready to attach a real load. For now, the switch stays off. I want to verify the rectifier output and the coil behavior before bringing this capacitor into the circuit. Before moving on, I'm opening up the bottom panel so you can see how the wiring looks inside. This is just a quick check to make sure all the connections are solid and nothing is touching where it shouldn't. This is the connection switch for the large capacitor, and right now it's in the off position. The capacitor is already mounted, but it won't be brought into the circuit until the output becomes stable and I'm ready to apply a load. Everything is assembled except magnet, and this is power on of the system. Before pushing it further, I'm starting with a light load just to confirm that all sections are responding the way they should. Now the MOSFET power is on. The lower trace is the MOSFET's drain output, and you can see the edges are dancing up and down. That means the switching isn't stable. The MOSFET isn't settling cleanly at either the on or off state, and the energy is bouncing around the circuit instead of following a predictable path. This is the waveform at the positive input of the coil. You can see the switching pulse coming in, but the edges aren't clean. The waveform is wobbling because the coil isn't settling and the energy is feeding back into the circuit. The power analyzer shows about 73 watts, and if I subtract the Variax's own 6.3 watt consumption, the system is pulling roughly 67 watts. That's because the coil's low resistance and the unstable switching are causing large current spikes, and the snubber and MOV are dissipating a lot of that excess energy as heat. I'm checking the temperature of the RC snubber and the MOV, and as expected, both of them are running way too hot. But what's more interesting is that the heating isn't consistent. Sometimes the snubber gets hotter, other times the MOV spikes first. The load keeps shifting back and forth every time I measure it. This tells me the switching behavior isn't stable. The energy from the coil isn't following a predictable path, and the protection components are taking turns absorbing the excess. With the system in this state, I can't push the experiment any further without risking damage, so this is where I have to stop for now. The output coil measures about 1.6 ohms, and that low resistance is where the instability starts. Because of it, the RC snubber and the MOV aren't operating in their proper ranges, and the heat keeps shifting between them unpredictably. With the protection network this unbalanced, I can't safely continue the experiment. With a 1.6 ohm coil at 9 volts, the current shoots to about 5.6 amps. At that point, the coil isn't behaving like an inductor anymore. It's basically acting like a resistive heater. The core saturates instantly, the current spikes, hammer the MOSFET and the snubber, and most of the energy turns into heat instead of magnetic flux. In this condition, the MEG effect simply can't appear. So here's the plan. I'm going to remove the coil, rewind it from scratch, increase the number of turns significantly, raise the resistance into a safer range, and push the inductance high enough to prevent early saturation. Only then can I properly test the MEG behavior and see if the system can produce any usable output. This failure wasn't the end. It was the beginning of the next iteration.
If you want to follow the next build, the new coil design, and the next MEG test, make sure to subscribe to Lanikai Energy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next experiment.